Meanwhile, Ukraine says its drones hit an oil tanker belonging to Russia's Shadow Fleet in the Mediterranean. Its first attack there in nearly 4 years of war. This unverified video is said to show to the moment when the strike happened. Analysts believe Russia operates a shadow fleet of hundreds of ships that frequently change flags or use other tricks to sidestep Western sanctions. Throughout 2025, Ukraine has targeted Russian oil refineries, but in recent weeks, it has expanded its campaign. William Alberque is a security analyst with decades of experience working with the Pacific Forum, NATO, and the U.S. government. I asked him how big a deal it is for Ukraine to attack a tanker in the Mediterranean 2,000 kilometers from its borders.
Well, it is a big deal because Russia has been relying on this shadow fleet of tankers to move oil illegally and bust sanctions for years now. And so the idea that Ukraine is taking away any sort of sanctuarization that they have by being far afield is really showing Russia that they cannot do this with impunity.
Before we take a closer look at the Shadow Fleet, I want to look at the logistics here. How is it even possible for Ukraine to carry out such a long-range attack with drones?
Well, you'll recall Ukraine has done a number of very ambitious strategic attacks against Russian interests, whether it was in Africa against the political military group there, the Africa Corps, or attacks against Russian airfields far, far away, thousands of kilometers away from the Ukraine border. Because the thing, of course, about drones is you need a launch pad and you need a controlling system. And the closer you are to the actual attack, the easier it is, the less possibility for jamming. So what all Ukraine would have to do is to get their own ship, to get it into the Mediterranean, to buy the drones, put it on board, and to control them locally and to carry out the strikes. So in theory, you can carry out drone strikes anywhere around the world if you have forward controllers. And that's probably what Ukraine did there with a forward group of commandos based on a ship or on land to attack these. So they can do this, and again, trying to send the message to Russia that it is relatively easy for Ukraine to do this anywhere in the world, should send a message that their shadow fleet's going to be at risk. But technically, it's just not that big a challenge to conduct these kind of drone raids remotely from relatively close to your target.
Yeah. Russia's so-called shadow fleets. Let's zoom in on that for a second. How big is it, and what exactly is its purpose?
Well, the thing about the shadow fleet is you don't know exactly how many ships there are. Pre-war, probably below 1,000. Now we're thinking there's more than 1,240 that Ukraine is tracking. And so these are ships that are registered usually to governments with relatively low licensing requirements and low monitoring. So we call a false flagged operation. So you have to flag a ship somewhere. But you choose a country where the regulations are relatively low, and then you can control that ship and have it do things that are relatively illegal. In theory, it would be up to the country where that ship is flagged in order to monitor its actions. But Russia has found a huge loophole by buying these old ships, by having shell companies register them in third countries. And again, with more than 1,000 of these around the world, each one of these ships can carry something on the order of 100,000 metric tons of oil, which is a huge amount, and allows Russia to circumvent sanctions all around the world, trading oil and other resources.
Is it easy to spot and identify these tankers?
That's the thing, if you were to go on, there's websites, for instance, that track maritime activity. There are literally tens of thousands of ships at any moment traveling all around the world. You look at the big choke points like the English Channel or the Spratlys or anywhere around the world, you'll just see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ships passing any given point at any given moment. And so figuring out, okay, who owns this ship? Is it attached to a company? What exactly are they carrying? It becomes such a massive task that really it becomes impossible to manage. And so what Ukraine is trying to do is go through the companies that these ships are registered to. And is the company somehow tied to Russia? And when was this company registered? And when have registrations changed? And they've been able to identify, just like you would with a criminal organization, the paper trail that leads from the Russian government to these ships. It's a very difficult, arduous process, but I commend the Ukrainians. Like I said, they've been able to identify 1,240 ships around the world that they believe are being controlled as part of this Russian shadow tanker fleet. And now, to demonstrate that those ships are also vulnerable, sends a big message to Russia that they can't just hide these things through shell games forever.
That was William Alberque, security analyst with the Pacific Forum. Thanks so much, William.
Thank you.